Welcome back to Slate TV, your potential new future consistent destination for One Piece content. Now, I made a market watch video last week, pre-ban list, and a lot of people, and by a lot of people I mean literally two people, it was well received. So I figured I'll do another market watch. This is not that. I've included the link to my first market watch last week if you wanted to just kind of get an intro on me, my channel. It's existed for a while due to Yu-Gi-Oh! We're talking about Red Purple Law ban though, because I wanted to do my weekly market watch video that I was starting to do. And unfortunately, worst case scenario happened during the ban. Now, I guess you guys can probably take an educated guess that I was a law player. I started playing the game with Reiju. So I started playing in OPO6, even though I started collecting in OPO2. So Law was kind of my first real deck that I kind of fell in love with. And at the same time, it was also the first deck I max rarity'd. Of course, because, and when I say max rarity, like I didn't have Treasure Cup Queens, but I had SP, Eustace Kids, I had the Reiju alts, I had the Rush Zoro OPO1 all. Spent a decent chunk of change on the deck, basically. And my reasoning behind it was I just kind of fell in love with the utility of the deck. To me, Red Purple Law was kind of as good as the player is versus maybe relying on a single linear strategy and waiting on one move every turn, do the same thing. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of Law is doing the same thing. You're going to see the same repeat moves very often. But I think the deck provided just a slight bit of flexibility to a higher IQ player, and that was my favorite part about the deck. And funny enough, I was kind of talking about this with my boys. I was saying that Red Purple Law is kind of like Batman's utility belt in the example that if like a random ninja or person was to put on Batman's utility belt, it's just a belt. But when Batman wears it, it's like the most dangerous weapon on the planet. And I'm kind of rambling about it, but I really feel like that's why Law saw so much success, because the top players preferred that flexibility to kind of like adapt to situations and kind of create a very oppressive board, but also react to oppressive situations and get out of them. Now, we in the West never got Law in OPO8, so I do believe that with the addition of Black Maria, the deck kind of was unfair, and I never even wanted to play it in that scenario. I kind of liked it where it was at, because in OPO7, it wasn't even really winning like that, right? Like in the West, at least, it was a very balanced meta. You had Nami winning, you had Lucci winning, you have Enel winning. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was dominated by one deck or Law, but I guess the direction it was headed in caused this ban to happen. So I guess you can say those are just my initial thoughts on why I loved Red Purple Law and why it was my first deck, and I'll always have an appreciation for it. But let's get on to something that is just atrocious. And what is atrocious is the new Red Purple Law. You should have just banned it, bro. Like, you should have just banned it and did nothing else, because this is worse than just doing nothing, right? Like, this is actively doing something worse to the community, because you're gonna have poor fools playing this deck thinking they might, I mean, I don't know who in their right minds reads this effect and wants to play this deck or thinks they can play it. I actually have one friend who thinks he can play it. He wasn't even a Law player. That's like kind of the irony of it. But this is horrible. I'm sure they're going to drop Hearts Pirates support, but my thing with Hearts Pirates is it's just Beppo. Like, I love One Piece. I've watched all of it. I've read all of it. I cannot name a single character other than Beppo that's on the Hearts Pirates. So it would just be a deck filled with Law and Beppo. Like, nobody wants to play that, bro. It's like Any's lobby getting banned. I think Lucci, people were starting to already adapt and make builds without the stage, for the fact that if you don't see the stage, or you mill, like you graveyard trash all your good cards in the process, uh I think people were having a lot of bad luck, and therefore they were starting to run builds without Any's lobby anyway. I don't think this damages the deck at all, or you just play the same deck on steroids, which is Gecko. So, uh, on the subject of being devil's advocate, though, I would say that Law was kind of like the gatekeeper at the Night's Watch, right? Like, he was holding a lot of decks back, but I think it was a good thing, because the decks that this, like, Law not being here makes way for, i.e., Blue Nami, it's gonna get annoying, because Law was probably one of the few decks that was stopping Nami from running rampant. Now virtually every single person is going to be able to win a tournament playing Solitaire, and I think we're going to see a lot of Nami. Reiju was my first deck, and just as a person who evolved into the game, the fact that I invested time, I invested money, and it went backwards to where I'm just back playing the first deck I started, it makes me feel like, what did I even do this shit for, right? Like, should I not make a top deck? Should I not invest too much money into a deck because it's going to get banned? I think it's too early to be banning leaders. I think it's too early to be printing cards in a lazy fashion, such as Black Maria. Like, if the card was never made, then this would have never happened, right? Because in OPO9, all the decks are busted. Blackbeard is busted, Luffy's busted, Shanks is turning out to look busted, right? Like, it seems like once you get all of the Shanks crew cards, he's going to be a pretty oppressive leader as well, as he should be. He's Shanks. But this deck could have really just been one of many, and because all decks are headed in this direction. They're headed in the direction of being as oppressive as Law, right? Like, this is how games grow. So to remove a fan favorite character leader that majority of your game is playing, to me, is quite frankly a horrible decision. And on top of that, I think that just the creation of Black Maria was the horrible decision, because if you playtest, if any of the playtesters at Bandai are doing, just an ounce of work, they could see that, if we make this card that gives you unlimited Dawn ramp, essentially, and the most oppressive deck, the only thing holding it back currently is the fact that it has to minus Dawn, it's going to get ugly, right? I think this was like something very easily avoidable. And I think Black Maria, just as a card, also doesn't make sense, because the whole point of purple is to manage your resources. So if you create a card that's not leader locked, and now any purple deck can run rampant without having to worry about managing their Dawn, what's the point of that, right? Like, you kind of just undid the entire purpose of a color. And I don't know, even in Kaido, like, fine, if you did it to just Kaido, it's cool. They already got Onigishima, they're already ramping. You give them Black Maria, they can basically spam Kaido, right? I think he has two. He has a 9-drop and a 10-drop, and they're both pretty busted. But I didn't want to make this too long. I just wanted to post like a reaction to Law being banned. I wanted to give my thoughts on it. I also just wanted to say that this will probably be my favorite leader. I don't see myself liking a deck more than this. I'm probably going to refrain from max raritying a deck. I'm also probably going to refrain from collecting mangas. I don't think reprinting the Shanks and Luffy in PRBO1 made sense, and then now you're just releasing another manga Luffy and another manga Shanks. At least give it some time, right? Give it some time. Like, it's just, I love One Piece, and I'm probably still gonna play, but I'm gonna take a slight step back in terms of investment, right? I'm already investing my time, which is the most precious thing. So we don't want to also invest our money when we might not get something back. for it, or if it's not gonna, have returns in the way we expected. So yeah, it kind of hurts because this game, One Piece, has to me, the potential for the first time ever to be the next big card game, right? It's been Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh for 2 decades, and this game is showing a slight glimmer with the power of the IP that is One Piece. This game is showing the potential to have some longevity, but if capitalism strikes, they're gonna screw this up. It's surviving because of the name. It's surviving because of the characters, but I think that they need to get a little smarter with a couple of things. They're damaging, because before they were damaging the collectors base, which I'm a part of, but now they're also damaging the player base, which I'm a part of. And while I do think it may lead to an overall healthy balance, right? I could see the bright side of this. People might get to play a wide variety of decks, and the meta doesn't have to be just one deck. Even though it's like OPO 7 was a healthy meta, people were playing so many different decks and winning, right? I was going to locals with Law, and I would win a couple, lose a couple. I would lose to decks I would never expect to lose to. So I think it was pretty healthy, and they should keep this into consideration moving forward to not make the mistake to have to ban a leader in the first place, because it's becoming a trend now, right? And what it's told me is to not invest too much money and to not maybe play the best deck, because if you play the best deck, it's probably going to get banned, because if everyone complains about a deck being oppressive and they keep listening instead of finding alternative creative solutions, then the game is gonna get a little toxic. And I didn't even think I had this much to say. I can't believe I rambled on 12 minutes talking about Red Purple Law Ban. But those are my thoughts, guys. I'm definitely curious to see what you guys think as well. And let's do a little market watch. I'm probably just gonna straight after this record my market watch part 2. If you're interested, it'll probably uploaded soon. Check that out. I'm gonna do some of the more lower priced cards now, because my first market watch was just all the high end stuff. And Slade TV out.